Hey, where's LeBron going? There's 6 minutes left. Oh, so he just didn't want to play.
Come on, man!
The Lakers had a rough season filled with LeBron and Anthony Davis injuries, and just in the game before, AD got injured again. So in Game 5 without Davis, the Lakers struggled. A 30-point smackdown. LeBron had had enough, but it carried over to Game 6. Maybe it was exhaustion, but LeBron wouldn't get back on defense for several seconds for several possessions. He was done with this version of the Lakers team. Something was definitely going to happen in the offseason, and enter Russ. It's change. Do you remember when Rondo was on the Mavericks, decided in a playoff game that he was done with the Mavs and just gave up mid-game?
A wide open three.
Just kept fouling James Harden almost intentionally, got a technical, and then benched. After he got benched, the Mavs made up a back injury for Rondo, which sidelined him indefinitely for the playoffs. Now, there are playoff shares. Essentially, participating players receive shares of the revenue created by the league during the playoffs, and each player's share is determined by his teammates. But Mavs teammates decided Rondo wouldn't get any playoff share. Throughout the season, Rondo was butting heads with Rick Carlisle. They were literally cursing at each other. Teammates also just weren't messing with him, and Rondo's free agency was coming up. The day after he got benched, Dallas and Rondo came to the agreement that they were parting ways. So Rondo sabotaged his team in the playoffs because he decided mid-game that he was done with the team? In recent years, we've seen more and more players demand to be traded. We've seen players decide that they don't want to play for a team anymore and do whatever it takes to get out. And it's hurting the league. What is up, dudes, dudettes, ballers, players? It's your boy MJ. Part of this video was inspired by the Zion situation. Although we don't really know what he wants, the fact that his family has said that they want Zion off of the Pelicans, Zion letting himself go to above 300 pounds, and not even talking to his new teammate CJ McCollum to the point where JJ Redick called him out on it, there's something. But that got me thinking, what have other players done? What set this sort of precedent for Zion? Just like you can set a precedent by subscribing, so subscribe if you're liking the content. Thanks. Kristaps Porzingis threatened the Knicks in 2018 to trade him in 7 days, or he'll go back to Europe to rehab, which would really hurt his trade value. The Knicks scrambled and traded him for someone who got bounced out of the league and an expiring contract.
That's tough.
Kyrie Irving threatened to have a season-ending knee injury if the Cavs wouldn't trade him, so they traded him within 2 months of his request. All this happened behind closed doors. There are other players who have demanded trades, like Paul George demanding a trade to the Pacers, and it was normal. Same with Westbrook and the Thunder. Request a trade or say you won't extend near the end of the contract, unless you're Dame, can't run from the grind.
That's a bad shot.
But stars have done even more to get out. We could go back to Vince Carter on the Raptors. Vince Carter was a star in the early 2000s. In his second year, man was already top 5 in scoring, averaging over 25 points per game. He signed a max contract extension in 2001, 6-year, $90 million. Vince wanted the Raptors to trade their number 4 overall pick to build a better team, and they didn't. He requested a trade. The Raptors moved real slow. Tensions rose. So Vince purposefully played worse. In the 2004-05 season, he only averaged 15.9 points per game on 41% from the field compared to 24.6 points per game for the previous 5 seasons. Raptors rookie head coach Sam Mitchell and Vince Carter got into a fight.
Well, you know what? They tangled up and they really trying to slam each other on the ground. So now you got them up like this. Boom!
Jalen Rose described it as a body slam. Vince was so fed up about not getting traded, and so he decided to do one thing. Well, actually, not do something. He decided not to dunk. No, seriously. Carter just stopped dunking in game. When asked about it, this is what he said.
I don't want to dunk anymore. Dunking's overrated.
The guy with the single greatest dunk contest performance, the guy who led the league in all-star votes, deciding to stop dunking. Maybe maybe that could. The Raptors finally traded him for Alonzo Mourning, who never played for them, Eric Williams, Aaron Williams, and 2 first-rounders, a trade that was universally seen as a loss for the Raptors. So not dunking actually worked, among other things. Immediately when he got traded, Carter averaged 27.5 points on 46% for the Nets. If you think LeBron quit on his team in 2010, I'd recommend you watch Dom 2K's video on it. The Celtics made LeBron a jump shooter and he hadn't matured enough to make them pay. Plus his teammates just missed some open shots. So I wouldn't say he quit, he just got beat. Organizations have had power for so long. Remember when Harrison Barnes was traded mid-game?
Now this is being reported, folks, from Bleacher Report.
What? LeBron going to the Heat and subsequently signing small deals with the threat of leaving every year or two changed the NBA. Stars realized they have a lot more power. One really recent example that comes to mind is James Harden. I talked about this in a recent video in more detail, so I'll give an overview. The Rockets let go of Daryl Morey. Harden wanted out. He told them in October-November of 2020, but they weren't in a rush to move him. So he came into training camp out of shape. Yes, he purposely gained weight to force the Rockets into trading him immediately. He did have a suit of fat, the new pounds of fat he had just gained by partying, and in a week or so, he was traded to the Nets. And he's done the same thing twice. Yep, Harden undergoes weight transformations every time he wants to be traded. And even that last game on the Nets, when it was pretty much out in the open that he wanted out, man had more turnovers than points, a lot of assists though, and lost to the Kings. We saw him have mental lapses, he was spaced out. Harden did everything again to get the Nets to trade him, and now we're seeing old James Harden on the Sixers.
No skill at all.
We can even go back to another player forcing his way out, Anthony Davis. AD was the #1 pick in 2012 to New Orleans Hornets. He requested a trade publicly in January 2019, saying he wouldn't sign an extension, but he was under contract till 2020. The Pelicans didn't feel the urgency to move him, and the trade deadline came and went. Because Anthony Davis is legitimately injury prone, it looks like he has a season-ending injury every time he plays.
How do you do that?
The Pelicans decided, let's just sit him for half the season. The NBA was just like, no, you can't just sit out a healthy superstar. And so they threatened the Pelicans with fines of $100,000 per game that Anthony Davis missed while healthy. So he played, randomly missing games, and it was awkward. Teammates were just like, okay, he doesn't want to be here. And Anthony Davis was also like, I don't want to be here, but I'm forced to play.
That recaps that he demands a trade, he forces the Pelicans to play him, he injures his shoulder, and then he plays in the All-Star game instead of resting the shoulder.
The Pelicans had a lot of pressure to get something in return, and the team was distraught. But even this wasn't even as bad as some of the other ones. Man was sitting out. He missed the last 7 games of the season, and that was how his Pelicans journey ended. The term injury has also become an umbrella excuse for players just not wanting to play. And the other guy involved in the Harden trade, Ben Simmons, also did a whole lot to force the Sixers to trade him. Ben Simmons, the 3-time All-Star, was pretty much proven to be a liability in the 2021 playoffs. Not because he couldn't shoot, that didn't help, but because he wouldn't. He just hadn't improved in the years before, and now he was not even willing to take open shots. That was a problem. Simmons was already in trade talks earlier that year, and so the Sixers started looking. So by the end of August, Simmons officially requests a trade. The thing is, he signed a 5-year, $170 million contract in 2019, so he has 4 years left. Even when Embiid and the other Sixers teammates tried to meet up with him, Simmons said, don't waste your time because he's not coming back. Then reports came out that Simmons was willing to sit all year if he has to. The Sixers threatened Simmons by saying that they'll withhold his salary if he doesn't show up for training camp, and so Ben comes to training camp in October, alright, really engaged, and oh, he got kicked out of practice. Doc Rivers said that he was a distraction, and Embiid said,
At this point, I don't care about that man, honestly.
But then Simmons all of a sudden said he wasn't mentally ready to play. I don't want to make light of the situation, but Simmons also refused help from professionals from the Sixers. He pretty much distanced himself away from the team, and the Sixers held his salary. Simmons missed over 60 games and lost over 19 mil. When it was clear that Ben was determined to keep sitting, the Sixers made all the efforts, and with Harden in sight, they pulled the trigger. Immediately, Simmons was ready to travel with the Nets. Embiid was happy to get rid of him. I'm all for players having more power, but missing games in the middle of the season or sorta half-assing it is not cool at all. And it's gonna make more and more players decide mid-contract that they don't want to play for a team anymore and back out of their commitments. Still, it's crazy depths players are willing to go to force their teams to trade them. But what do you think? Which one was the weirdest situation of them all? Like for part 2 and I'll find more examples of what players do when they don't want to play for a team. The all-day notification shout goes to an OG day one. She's on a heck of a streak, Maria Jo, who again just wants to see the Warriors do good. Thanks for the all-day support. And if you're still here, you're a real one, so comment loyal so I know. Drop a like if you liked the video and subscribe, turn noise on if you really like the video. It really helps the channel out and lets me know what you want. It's your boy MJ. We out. We vibe.
Okay, just hop in my spaceship now.